was like, what were you doing with my drapes? The drapes that were hanging in the apartment. I never got the answer to that. Hi, this is Kari from Sky Properties, and today we're going to talk about doing the right rent increase. I think a lot of my managers think that we just want to charge the maximum rent increase we can get. That is not necessarily true. Although if you have a bad tenant, I would highly recommend giving them the highest increase possible. But with a good tenant, if you like them, they're paying rent, they're a good tenant in general, I think it's really important to take a look at the market and make sure that you're not raising their rent over market, or that you take a strategic look at how you're going to raise rent in your building. That's almost like doing a brand new rental, because you really do want to keep this person. We will sometimes go out of our way to offer them some sort of improvement in their apartment for another year lease, or a very small increase for them to stay. We want to renew our leases for our good tenants. The most important thing about doing rent increase is understanding the market, how much rent should be, and making sure that you're not raising rent over market for tenants you want to keep. When you're doing your rent increase, the question is, that I've been asked many times, is can you selectively do your rent increases? And the answer is yes. I would just say be very careful about your documentation as to why you're doing one thing at one unit and something different at another, because you don't want fair housing called into question or preferential treatment or any of that. You need to have solid reasons why you might be giving one person a raise and another person not a raise, because let's be honest, tenants talk. You could do renewals in a couple of different ways. If you have an older tenant that's below market and they look at one of your vacancies and go, wow, I really want all these things in my apartment, that would be a good time to renegotiate how much their rent is, and then what your ability is to put those things in at a reasonable cost that would make it worth your while to do it. If you have a tenant that you'd really like to renew, I think approach them first by phone or in person and ask them if they'd like to renew. And at that time, you're likely going to get a question about how much the increase is going to be. And you could say something, you have to decide that ahead of time what your limits are. But you could say something like, well, we'd be willing to reduce your increase by half. So instead of 8%, it's going to be 4%. It goes back to having a plan about how you're going to go about it. Also, not giving all of your tenants increases in the same month is also helpful if you don't want an empty building. Now, for buildings that are under rent control, this is very important. Raise it to the maximum amount every year. That's my best advice I can give you. The rent-controlled building should be raised every year at the same time for the maximum amount allowed.